So I'll invite us into a little bit more of an intimate space, and why don't we, since there's so few of us, just go around and do some personal introductions, say who you are. A few of you, this is your first meeting, but many of you, this is your third or second meeting, and so it's the same agenda, so nothing's changed, and so I think given the nimbleness of the group, we might be able to accomplish our outcomes for this meeting well within the allotted time before we start getting it's late. Do you want to lead us off?
My name is Glenda Gentry. I'm a former retired art teacher and administrator, and therefore very eager to be part of this work. I'm also part of the nonprofit Center for Excellence that you probably know about.
I'm Fred Silverman. This is my first meeting with Unification. I'm a long-time volunteer Bayside in the Bayside MLK and help coordinate volunteers. I'm also the Lee County Commission on Aging, so thinking very much about intergenerational opportunities. And I'm here because I really don't, I haven't been involved in
Shirley Dalton, community member, long time ago.
Thanks, Shirley. We haven't seen each other in a really long time. My name is Ilana. I've been in the House Sausalito community for 30 years. Started George Lucas's Educational Foundation in '91 and created this thing called Edutopia. But I think that one of the things that was kind of a pleasant surprise was piloting a nonprofit here in the city called Just Please, teaching kids from Mid-City how to make films. And that turned into a nonprofit where we brought students from here all around the world to teach other kids in 50 countries how to make films. And now, that was starting in '95. So just super honored to be coming back from circle, knowing that when leaders like Betty Hines and Shirley are nearby, that we can do this all together with new leadership. So thanks for inviting me.
My name is Chris Durban. I'm a community member and also on the board of the nonprofit Center for Excellence. Its goal is to support the arts, restore and expand arts in the school, and we're about to expand our vision. Just keep concerned about the kids here and really the idea of moving forward with all the kids' lives.
Well, why don't y'all come on and join our circle? Either pull up a chair if you would like some extra back support, or you're welcome to sit at one of the tables. Come on in too. We're all part of this together.
I'm Wanda Barron. I grew up in this community, and I'm a retired educator from San Francisco in the Black School District. I've been involved in a number of community nonprofits and things like that. I'm currently president of Friends University Library, which has a library collaboration with the school, with the school, and we're a big supporter of that. And this is my first meeting of this, what do we call it? Unification. Unification task force. So I'm really very supportive of kids. I'm also on the board of Performing Stars, Felicia Gaston, who has the Performing Stars organization here in Women's City.
Deborah Turner, Sausalito City School Board Trustee, and I think we should make all critical decisions right today.
exciting time, and
Okay, and I'm done.
My name's Janine, and I'm probably best known among people since August of 2016 at the FICMAT meeting as Cherie Sinclair's mom. And also I have two grandsons that went through Willow Creek, and my daughter was there when the division of the schools came, and she was very much against it, as I was. They were living, a separate part of our house at the time. I came back from a trip, and the second FICMAT had been prepared, and I printed it and read the whole thing, and I said, this is so wrong. We have to do something. And so I was pretty active in the first year or so, maybe two. I've moved since to San Rafael, but I'm still part of the community. I still have a grandson in the 6th grade, and I still have a huge stake in education. I was a teacher for 31 years in Marin County at several different schools, and I know a good middle school when I see it, or any kind of a school. I've taught every grade level, first through adult, not kindergarten. And so I have a stake in this just as a human being with every child that needs to learn and have a good program.
My name is Marilyn Mackel, and I'm a resident of Marin City. I'm on the board of the Marin City Community Development Corporation, and recently joined the School Attendance Review Board for the county, which is an interesting process. That's where the families come when the kids are not in school. So I've just joined that. I've been to one meeting so far, and a few have been canceled. So it's not a very not as active as I'm glad it's not as active as currently, because that means that kids are attending school, or what their other parents are following the plan that exists before they are brought to that board. And I've been very active with this school and with this district since I've been living here for the last 10 or 11 years.
Good afternoon. My name is Cameron Taylor. I'm Director of Maintenance and Operations for the school district. And I just want to say thank you all for coming out this afternoon. Appreciate it.
Hi everyone, my name is Quindisha Simpson. I also work for the school district. I work in the resource center at Willow Creek as a student success coach. No, you're fine. Behind you. Let's switch places.
Aura Hathaway, and I'm a substitute teacher and also retired architect and planner, and just very much interested in this whole Marin City coming together to become really a whole community, and the school being the seed. I'm late, but I walked the edge of the school property, and I think one of these meetings we just need to get out and walk around and really see what we have, where we are, what we're up against, the wetlands, all of that area there between the Ridgeway and the school, and coming through the tunnel. How can we make that an experience that's really worthy of a child walking through in the morning? It's kind of really nasty now. So I do, it takes me half an hour to walk from the bay over there to here, but walking through the community, just hearing who's not here and who's seeing who's here, and saying, hey, come down. They're like, oh no, there's a power outage. I said, well, I think we're still going to have a meeting anyway. A lot of people like, oh no, we got to get our stuff together. You know what I mean? So anyway, what's going on in the community?
Hi, my name is Robert Clark. I'm the Chief Business Officer for the school district. I was unable to attend the first two town halls, so I'm excited to be here at the third.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Yes, I was just going to introduce myself because I hadn't done so yet, and then pass the mic. Those of you that don't know me, my name is Itoko Garcia. I am the superintendent here since July the 1st.
Hi, I'm Barb Tilley. I've I'm tutoring at the school, but I mainly involved in the nonprofit, the Center for Excellence, which was founded by Dr. Thornton and with the assistance of Miss Newton and Ellen Franz, the art teacher, when they were told that the arts were going out of the budget, which happened 4 years ago. And so we've been working on restoring them.
Hello, I'm Johnette, and I'm here. I was here doing the Saturday music, and I heard about the meeting, so I thought I'd just drop in because these are the children here at Bayside MLK are my children, and I'm very concerned about their education, and so I came in.
Okay, I think we introduced everybody. Why don't we hold that just for the public comment? So, for those of you that haven't seen this before, I just want to reiterate that, this is our first chance, really, or third, in the last 7 days to come together, but it won't be our last chance. We will continue to have Unification Town Hall meetings next month and in December as well, and possibly a final one in January that we haven't talked about yet, but I think it might be good once recommendations are made to the board actually to have a follow-up meeting and see what both boards, how they respond to the recommendations that are made. And just starting with this quote, we don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step on Dr. King. And that's really what we're inviting everyone to do today. Another ancient proverb is the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And I think this is a really important first step for all of our community. We meaningfully talk about what happened, understand why it happened, and process some emotions around it, and then figure out how we can really come together and transcend it as a community, because I know that we can do better and deliver greater educational outcomes for all of our kids and families. And there's no kids here, but Quinn is here in child care capacity, and I hope all of you grabbed a sandwich if you came in just now and haven't, please do. We have a little bit of an overabundance of food, so I'm going to invite you to eat and then maybe take a sandwich with you as well, so those are our ways. I apologize for not shifting the time, but we'll be in a 2-hour time frame. Because we're such an intimate group, I'm going to dispense with some of the warm-up activities. I think we just warmed up well. Most of you have been through them already, and really get to the meat of the presentation. We did have about 80 or 90 people on Tuesday evening when we met, and we had about another 40 people at Willow Creek. So know that the other 2 meetings were really well attended and busy and needed technical interaction and different warm-ups that were time savers, but I'm going to skip those today because we're so intimate, and really just want to share the vision of the Unification Task Force, which I thank you, Deborah, for coming today. Deborah and I are the only 2 members of the Unification Task Force here on this Saturday, but other members were here Tuesday and Wednesday, and that is Deborah and myself and Trustee Van Alst from South Central Missouri School District, and then Johanna Vander Mullen, Alina Monder, and Jim Henry from the Willow Creek board. Both of our boards passed a resolution prior to the AG judgment around seeking a pathway to unification, and I really want to double down on the message that this is really the voluntary piece of what we're doing, and something that we opted into. And so jointly, it is the vision of our boards that we intend to improve the educational and social outcomes of all current and future students enrolled in our public schools. And that we're really committed to working together in the spirit of unification. And we are committed to engaging all of our stakeholders in the process that builds consensus around the best pathway for Willow Creek and Bayside and MLK to create a unified student solution. And we are actively seeking the input and participation of parents, guardians, staff, want to really triple down on the idea that we haven't decided anything yet. This process is around making recommendations. Nobody's going to be making a decision in this process. Our respective boards will make decisions about what to do with the recommendations. And this slide around what might mean is from some very preliminary feedback. But we still need all of your help to really help us decide and realize or actualize a vision. What we've heard thus far from some community surveys that we did, and I'll share the results specifically with you later, but this is a bit of a synthesis, is that everybody's interested in world-class programs that really stimulate deep learning and ignite the individual passions of our students, really engaging education. And folks have identified a focus on science, technology, the arts, and research in the form of a magnet school as one way that may potentially be able to do that. And when I say research, what I'm really referring to is project-based learning. There has been an idea that foundation of what Willow Creek has been doing to reach the levels of success that they're reaching over there is a focus on project-based learning. There is some narrative in the community that we are not doing project-based learning at Bayside, and okay, but we are. Project-based learning is not specific to a charter school or a traditional public school. It is a pedagogy, it is an approach. I have done it at many public schools in which I have been a part of over my career, and I think it's something that we can carry forward into this unified school. Creating a dual language Spanish program from pre-kindergarten to 8th grade is another piece that is surfacing as something that may be attractive to all the members of our community for some different reasons, I think, but the importance is that it's attractive to everyone. In between our two schools, we have an anchor population of native Spanish speakers, which would be about 30% in this unified school. Most of the research on dual language immersion suggests that that's about a floor of what we need to be successful, between 30 and 50% to have a really highly successful dual language school. You need native speakers that can provide us language models for non-native speakers, much like our native English speakers can provide language models for our English language learners. This has been well received in the Sausalito community, and as I've begun to have this conversation here in Marin City, I've been received with excitement and joy. One of the things that I can share, if you haven't read, I didn't expound upon my bio in my introduction, but I grew up Marin City adjacent. I'm from this area. I grew up on Mount Tan. I'm Old Mill class of 85, Mill Valley Middle School class of 88, Tam High class of 92. And this community was instrumental in my growth and youth development and identity formation and self-esteem. Many people from this community and from both Marin City and Sausalito provided mentorship roles, father figures to me growing up without a dad, and just generally loved on me and took care of me. So a lot of where I am today, I owe this place, and that's a big motivation for my being here. But something that's been true for 40-odd years is that often kids from the Sausalito Marin City School District, even when it was much more integrated and diverse, like when I was a kid, we still had all the kids from Fort Conkite and Fort Baker and the Presidio that went here, so it was a very diverse school district at the time. Often we're not well prepared to meet the foreign language requirement at Tam High. That is a 3-year requirement necessary for graduation. It also happens to be a requirement for admission to UC, CSU, or any other major 4-year college or university across the land. And what I've heard in response to this idea is we finally will have a great chance if we've had it pre-K through 8th, right? And so the idea would be kids graduating from this school would be able to ace a Spanish language placement test as freshmen at TAN and be able to take any other language they wanted or do very, very well in 3 years of Spanish with this kind of foundation. We're committed to having a school that has career pathways and college readiness programs, learning from and valuing different perspectives and really becoming global citizens. And I will just triple down on the idea that probably the greatest gift that I received growing up in this community is a level of cultural and linguistic competence that has allowed me to go anywhere in the world and fit in and be successful and be comfortable to go have a 20-year career in Alameda County, in East Oakland and West Oakland and in northern Hayward, Southern Alameda County, because of the cultural and linguistic competencies that I was gifted from this community. And I think those are the kinds of gifts that this school can give all of our future students, really deepening our community school model, empowering families to work alongside staff and support a student need, a place where we can all feel safe in who we are, what we believe, and who we become, and a truly integrated, diverse school that is academically and socially desirable for all of the residents of the 94965, including the people that live in Muir Beach. Might even get them to come over the hill and go to our school. Definitely for our folks that are in our Enrollment Valley on the south side of Tennessee Valley Road over the hill. One that produces results better than Bayside and Milwaukee and Willow Creek are currently producing, and really on par with Mill Valley, Ross Valley, and Miller Creek. Right? This is a very high-performing county of public schools, one of the highest-performing counties in the country. And in a high-performing county, Mill Valley, Ross Valley, and Miller Creek are the highest-performing school districts in a high-performing county. And our Unification Task Force, both the 3 members from Willow Creek and our folks from our district, felt very strongly that any benchmark of this new school has to be those 3 school districts. We're not trying to just get better than where we currently are. We're trying to be highly competitive in our county with the 3 top-performing school districts in our county, and that really has to be our benchmark. That has to be our goal. That has to be the program that we build. That has to be what we plan for, and that has to be the kind of staff that we recruit and retain so that we can build those kind of results and that kind of achievement. We hope to do it with all of you, along with our students and our staff and our administrators and our already engaged community partners. You heard from the introductions, many folks are members of different community organizations that already partner with our schools. And we feel that we want to include folks that are already at the table in this process. We have to. We owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our kids, and we owe it to our community to build on the foundation that we have. As you'll see shortly, we're inviting the community in a series of work groups, meetings, creating some reports, and really reporting to the Unification Task Force so we can create a final report to both boards. And collaboratively developing a unification plan that engages all of our stakeholders and builds consensus around what is most likely to be successful. We want to give a lot of energy to consensus building. We think it's really important. Consensus building means that not everybody's going to be happy with everything, but we're trying to get to a place where most people are happy with what we're proposing. And again, nothing has been yet decided. There is an FAQ sheet available. You can read a lot of the FAQs that have been generated through the electronic correspondence process, but I'm going to skip today because there's so few of us. But what I will do is show some of the FAQs that were generated at the last meeting. They'll scroll by on the screen, and then if anybody's sitting here and says, well, hey, I'm still sitting with the burning question, if I could get Robert, if you could just jot down a note for me, I appreciate that. And so we have answers to many of the questions on the FAQ sheet. The only answers that are outstanding are really around school configuration and funding. And the reason that we don't have an answer for that yet is that our district council put out a memo with their firm's opinion on these things. Willow Creek had maybe a week or 10 days to review that memo prior to our first meeting last week, but it wasn't enough time for their council to weigh in on it with an opinion. And what we've agreed to do is once we get that memo back from Willow Creek's council, we're going to send it to a third party that has nothing to do with either of our schools to synthesize those legal opinions, and then that memo will become part of the FAQ that we'll have at the next meeting. Yes, Laura?
I have a burning question.
Yes.
Originally, a little while ago, we were talking about the health center and the school conjoining. Is there any way we can still both benefit from that partnership?
Glad you asked that. My answer to that is yes, absolutely. We can. And I think, as you'll see a little bit later in the presentation, I think there's several ways for us to do that, and I think it would be really advisable. Does anybody need me to speak into the mic, or am I okay? Because I realize I'm just holding it for that reason. So my view of a community school most nationally recognized community schools do have an integrated health clinic. And that means that if it's not integrated directly into our school building, that we at least have a pass-through and a connection and several exam rooms that are dedicated just to kids and families that are secure from the rest of the facility. And so I have had a preliminary conversation with the folks over at the health clinic around that possibility. I plan to have some more. I know that there are some challenges right now in raising the funds needed to turn next door into a health clinic and mixed-use housing project. And I think one thing that we could look at as a community is how we can partner as a school district on that project and make that happen for the community. So here are some of the questions that folks had at the last meeting. You'll see them just scroll up on the board behind me, and I want to invite any of you, if you have other questions, to go ahead and add them and describe them. While that's happening, right before I take your question, we did introductions a little earlier, but want to invite you to introduce yourself.
I'm Loretta Williams, and I live here in Marin City.
Thank you for coming today.
Born and raised here.
All right.
You said that the districts typically came back with answers to questions and now the attorney is reviewing them. Is there a deadline and that needs to respond?
I imagine it'll be soon. We have our next unification task force. We've literally been meeting every week to plan these town halls. Last week was the first week that we didn't have a meeting. Well, this week, actually, I should say. And we have a meeting on Monday, and so we'll bring that up. I don't think it will take too much longer. There's only a few points, I think, that maybe there wasn't some agreement or alignment on, particularly around configuration. What we have is continuing as a unified public school as an option. Creating a dependent charter school, a unified dependent charter school as an option. Continuing as an independent charter school as an option, or consolidation with Mill Valley as a fourth option. Anyone that's particularly interested in the details of what it would take to consolidate with Mill Valley, there is a tab on our website that says Unification, and on there is the study commissioned by the Marin County Office of Education around consolidation with Mill Valley. The upshot of that study is that we are nowhere near close enough to consolidating yet. You have to meet 10 out of 10 criteria to even move ahead with consolidation. At the time of that last study, we met 7. They made some recommendations around collaboration and professional learning and a few other things. I think the main question is that the community cannot lose its identity, its individual community identity through the process of consolidation of school districts. And I think for various reasons, there's a significant amount of energy here in Marin City, but also in Sausalito, that consolidating with Mill Valley could potentially threaten both communities' identity. And that would be something that would have to be answered and accounted for before any consolidation could occur. Also, both school boards would have, all 3 school boards would have to approve consolidation. And so there's, that part, which is, might sound easy, it might not, depending upon where you sit. So there will be a follow-up study done by MCOE this year, just to see what kind of progress has been made.
It is true, I'm assuming, what I've heard, but it's not, that you just could only happen if the population voting in favor of the population of both districts.
That's correct. That's my understanding.
Yeah, okay.
Don't quote me on that, but that's what I interpret the report to say.
Yeah.
I should say.
Two questions. First, because you did note assessment, Can we add portfolio assessment into the existing plan?
Yeah, of course. There is a curriculum work group. They, I think, have an initial meeting after both town halls Tuesday night. And I'm excited to report that work groups are meeting. It wasn't just the curriculum work group. There's several other work groups that have already met. People have taken this charge very seriously. I'm glad to say it's one thing when you plan a thing, it's another thing when the thing happens, right? And so it's great to see that people really dove in and are responsibly organizing themselves, calendaring, having meetings, and coming up with some plans. And so absolutely portfolio assessment could be a part of that.
And then because the health center was mentioned, can there be a big note that emphasizes mental wellness, being that the data worldwide is 1 in 3 of everyone is suffering?
Yeah. Absolutely. So there's a culture and climate work group along with the curriculum work group. I think that question kind of maybe straddles those two. You will find as you get to know me, a key component of my doctoral research is looking at mindfulness as a tool for both student and educator wellness. Those of us that have been in education for a long time, many of us have our own individual stress resilient practices, but we'll have worked with many colleagues who throughout the years did not and frankly didn't make it. This is a tough job. We hold a lot of vicarious trauma from students and families that we serve, and if you don't know how to take care of yourself, it can be literally crippling. It can literally be a killer. And so we know that many of the current Bayside and OK students come from some higher trauma backgrounds, and so we absolutely are focused on that currently here in our school and believe that it would be a critical focus moving forward. Kind of the basis of the community school model in a lot of ways is making sure that we have embedded social work and we have embedded mental health. We are currently a mindful school. We practice mindfulness in every class, every day. We are bringing that to regular staff meetings. It's kind of my commitment, and so we certainly hope, I think, to continue that. Laura?
Questions. One, there was a presentation by a group that just seemed to come out of nowhere, but it was brought in by the board in the county called I Have a Dream. They wanted to come in and provide all the money to save everybody's soul. The second thing was, and they're from somewhere in the Midwest. I don't know where they disappeared to. But that conjoins with the question of, are we aligned with any kind of schools, any kind of community college or College of Marin, to link the health, I mean, to really help us become strong in our commitment to youth, both those questions. Whatever happened to I Have a Dream?
That's a more complex question that I need to do a little bit more research into. I actually
hear her question.
So she asked what happened to the I Have a Dream people.
Someone, because I was pursued by them to help them, they have dropped their vision.
They've lost their vision?
Yeah. 2 weeks ago, we had an email. Okay. Yeah. So nothing's happening. It won't happen with the leader that brought that in, despite his best intentions. It's not happening.
To answer your other question, I'm happy to report that I had a meeting yesterday with the Marin County Office of Education, Compass, which is the Career to College Counseling Program at College of Marin, Dominican University, University of San Francisco, Cal State Teach, 10,000 Degrees, to actually talk about a vertically articulated pre-K to college counseling and career program to help us get in compliance with the AG judgment, but also to make sure that the scholarship that we're required to offer feeds into other scholarships, and in particular is a pathway to produce teachers of color that want to come back and teach in our schools from students that went here, as well as perhaps a pipeline to criminal justice careers so that we can support the diversification of the Marin County Sheriff's Department, which, as you all probably know, is a very not diverse organization. One of the benefits of having grown up around here is that Under Sheriff Scardina was my Pop Warner quarterback, and so I've been able to have some conversations with him about this topic and what a true community policing model could look like in Orange City in terms of community education and making sure that we have some sheriff's deputies from the community that look like the community, that don't leave the community, as well as serving the needs that the sheriff's office has from their substation here. And so I'm pleased to report that I met with him 2 weeks ago, and he was excited to explore all of these possibilities with us and gave his commitment that he will do whatever he can to support us in realizing that vision. And so just we'll do a quick, if that scroll was too fast, I'll do a quick, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You mentioned the working groups and that they're ongoing. I'm interested in one of those and
I may have not flashed long enough the foundational slide, but any of you that have any questions or any interest in participating in any way can send an email to unification@smcsd.org, and we will route you through that email address.
Just a quick question. Are the groups met already, or are they meeting in person?
Yes, some are meeting in person, some are meeting virtually through like Google Hangouts or Skype or Zoom. I think there'll be a variety of options depending upon the work group.
that's what I was also asking.
So here are the questions that came up here at Bayside MLK. Again, just, this question is a good one. I mentioned sort of anecdotally before all of you sat down. I think for us, our next couple town hall meetings are going to take place outside of the school building in the 100 or the 200 lot over in Golden Gate Village, so that our parents can have full access and it's easy for them to participate. Hopefully, we will get higher parent participation. We did have some BMLK parents here on Tuesday night, but not in the numbers that I need to see. And the reason that we actually don't have any parents on the Unification Task Force is, again, the task force is made up of subcommittees of both boards. And so we do not currently have on the Sausalito Marine City School District a current school parent on the board in ways that the Willow Creek Board has current parents on their board. So just an important note. So I'll just scroll back here through the questions just to make sure everybody has a chance. See them.
Was that from the last meeting?
It was from meeting on Tuesday. Yeah, this is the Bayside MLK presentation. Yeah, it's one that you were at.
Did they get an answer?
I think they're not on this FAQ document. I haven't had a chance to update it yet, but I will next week. And it's
verbally answered most of them.
I verbally answered most of them. Yeah, it's not. It is evenly balanced. The consolidation committee from Willow Creek can have 3 board members on it because they have a 7-member board. Our committee can only have 2 board members on it because we have a 5-member board. But since I'm on our committee as well, it is actually balanced 3 people and 3 people.
What is the status of the lawsuits that are filed?
Good question. They're ongoing. And so that does make some of this perhaps more difficult than it needs to be. There are underpending litigation things that we can't discuss because we'd be inadvisable to do so. The district's demur for the main Willow Creek lawsuit will be heard November the 5th in Lane County Superior Court. A motion to intervene in AG judgment that was filed a couple weeks ago by Willow Creek has been continued until after the demurrer hearing. So we do not have a date for that case to be heard, but I imagine it will get on the docket relatively quickly after the demurrer hearing. Part of the reason I believe that the judge agreed to continue it is the demurrer covers 9 of the 10 claims in the Willow Creek lawsuit. The only one the demurrer doesn't cover is Willow Creek's right to intervene in the AG. So,
whenever what demurrer is, just to offer a simple.
good question. I'm not exactly sure, Marilyn, you might be able to help me with this legally what it means, but what it means is they don't, it's arguing that there is no basis for a lawsuit on any of the claims.
When we teach it in undergrad, we say, so what? So you file the suit. It doesn't have any legal standing or meaning. And literally we tell students, maybe, so what? Doesn't mean
No merit.
no merit or consideration.
That's the district's stance
Toward 9 of the 10 claims.
So they've appealed it, this is the last?
It's not an appeal.
First step.
First step, okay.
Negotiation. If it's dismissed, if the demurrer is granted.
Okay, so if it has merit, you're saying, just,
They'll be dismissed, and then they can appeal that.
thank you.
Yeah. And if the demurrer is not held up by the judge, then we could appeal that as well.
Exactly.
So I'm actually excited for a decision in any direction. I think it'll help with this process, just to have some clear guidelines around what legally people think we can and should do. But to answer this question directly, our unification process, because it's voluntary, doesn't hinge on any legal decision. We are going to continue on with this process regardless of what happens in court. I'm committed to that. I know all the members of the Unification Task Force are committed to that. And we are committed to submitting recommendations to both of our boards in January, regardless of what's happening legally. This union question will be answered in the legal memo.
I have one last question here. What about the faith communities, are they involved, the churches? In working with the community?
That's a good question. I think we have a lot of folks that are coming regularly to the meetings that are very involved in their churches, but that is a piece I would like to get a faith leadership committee together. I think I have some ways to do that through some existing relationships that I have. I also know that means I need to carve out my schedule to go show up.
But through that, you'll probably find a parent. I bet you that will be interested in your.
Yeah. I need to go show up for services, but I
Good service.
We need a little apartment here in town.
At this time.
My favorite answer to this accountability question is I think that we're most accountable to students and then to ourselves. That's who we are accountable to. I like to constantly remind folks at these meetings that we're not building a school that any of us are going to attend. We're building a school that kids are going to attend, and so we need to build a school that kids are excited to attend, and that should be our number one priority, despite any of our side beliefs or politics or history. We have to build a school that kids want. I am happy to report that there were students at both meetings, and we will continue to do outreach so that student group grows. They did have some really valuable contribution at both of the last meetings, and some kids from Tam High who have an organization called Students Organizing Against Racism are facilitating the student space. It's not being facilitated by adults. That organization won a national award from the Courageous Conversation Coalition at a national summit in Houston last week. And so I One of my asks to their leadership was to ensure that they recruit former alum from Bayside MLK and from Willow Creek. They currently have, I think, 4 who will be at the next Unification Town Halls. And it is really our commitment to center student voice and vision in this process moving forward. We will begin to develop some multimedia pieces around the spaces and places where our kids are already together and don't seem to have any challenge being together as kids. So I don't see why school would be any different. And I think, you know, this question around naysayers, that's also my main strategy around people who don't believe that this can happen, is to let student voice lead and show that indeed it can and it will.
It is in many ways.
It is. It is.
The legal question, legal answers of the lawyer from the district now, some of them will curriculum in neutral for those documents.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is our intent. There's just some of the questions on there that say, I put most of them to ED. I think I missed 1 or 2 that still refer to the legal memo. We were going to attach the legal memo from our attorney, and then there was some discussion around ensuring that it was a fair and balanced opinion, and so that's why we are where we are. I am happy to report that at the time of this meeting it wasn't true, but our monitor for the judgment process has been selected. She is Dr. Janelle Scott from UC Berkeley. She's an expert in segregation and desegregation, urban schooling, private schools, and charter schools, and we're really lucky to have her aboard. For somebody of her status and expertise, she has written dozens of articles and published several books on these topics. The fact that she's only charging us $200 an hour is a really quite a gift, quite a bargain. Folks of her status can often charge significantly more money than that. Hey, thanks for coming, y'all.
I'm sorry to interrupt. PG&E is going to have outages here. Do you know that?
We do.
Yeah, I got a call, excuse me, I'm the maintenance for the, rec center.
Yeah.
Miss Taylor, Sharon Taylor called me and said they was gonna set up the emergency tent. Anybody familiar? No? Okay, because it's gonna be set up out here in the parking lot. And she didn't say what time, but
Because of the blackout?
yeah.
They're setting up at...
Yeah, they're gonna set up, where people can come get information, all the good stuff. But I thought y'all was, familiar with it.
Thank you. We do have some generators here that we have reserved so that we can finish up with this meeting.
Oh, okay. All right.
In the middle.
So if y'all need me, I'll be right outside.
Thank you.
All right. No, not yet. I gotta find out what's going on first.
That was my hope.
All right, thank you.
Get to 2 p.m. today before we lost electricity. And the generators, actually, for those any of you that are concerned or interested, we'll have them going throughout the power outage so we don't lose power to our coolers and our food doesn't spoil, so we can do food service on Monday, even with no electricity. Our school will be open, even with no electricity. We kept our school open through the last 2 public safety power shutoffs, which lasted 2 full school days. And we only had 12 kids absent each day, which is a normal absence rate for our school. So to me, that was a testimony that our community did indeed need our school to remain open as a place of safety, as a place of shelter, as a place of sustenance and care. And so,
I'm sorry to bring the interruption, but I thought everybody needed to know.
yeah.
What's the mention of the religious conversations is doing a 3-hour intensive? When and where?
I just got the dates from them, tentative dates. It will be, I think, November the 5th. No, sorry, not November the 5th, the week after. It's coming soon. I will get it out once I lock the contract with them. They're going to do a Wednesday and a Saturday, just so that if people can't make one, they can make the other. And, I have, it'll be afternoon, probably Wednesday or evening. I need to lock in the time. I'm still kind of short notice, and we'll probably do something around midday on the Saturday. Seems like a decent time for a lot of work. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, have you participated before?
Oh, yes, I actually am Beyond Diversity trained. I'm certified to lead the training myself, but given my positionality, I think it's better that somebody else leads the training. I have been Beyond Diversity trained since 2010. I convened the first Latina or Latinx, for those of you that don't like to speak Spanish, space at National Summit in 2011 in San Francisco. And all of the Bayside and MLK staff went through a 2-day training to start the school year. We are having a courageous conversation facilitated by me one Wednesday per month with the staff to keep it ongoing, to sustain and deepen the conversation here throughout the year. We're definitely very committed to. Wanted to go over the survey responses. Had 192 total, 163 from Willow Creek, 29 from BMLK. Those of you doing the math might seem like those numbers are skewed, but they are about 30% of the parents from each community. So in survey land, that's actually not a terrible response rate, and kind of is reflective of the different numbers of enrollment of our schools right now. You can see some interesting responses here around what's important for the future of our school district. They are, yeah. If you go on our website, there's a Unification tab right on the homepage, and there's a PDF of this presentation that's available there. I also actually posted the survey on there, so you can scroll through the survey responses to your heart's content. If that's something that is interesting.
These students and parents are voting.
As you saw there, oh, wait a minute. Mostly parents.
Mostly mothers,
If you look at the next question, 70% of the respondents were women or girls. So, gentlemen in the room may need to do the few of us that are here. I mean, this is pretty representative of the survey response. We need to get our dads and granddads and uncles and cousins equally involved and present in our students' education and vision for our students' education. We are designing some things there. We want to create a club for male-identified parents and guardians. I was able to create an organization called POPS, or Parents and Other People Supporting Schools, in my last manifestation as a school leader. And so we'll come up with something like that here too. Here you can see sort of some of the genesis of this Star Magnet School district. Science, technology, and the arts are the top things that folks name. Math and engineering were super far behind, but you can see where the emphasis is in terms of respondents of our community. And then inside of that, folks really chose music, visual arts, digital media, and theater as emphasis for arts integration programming at our school, and I think that has implications for the curriculum work group. I also think it has implications for the facilities work group, because at neither school do we have a proper facility that has a performing arts theater or for dance or well, actually, I will say that CFE and Ms. Franz have done actually quite a commendable job of using our space for visual arts exhibits. So I'll just invite you to look around. But I think we could also even, in some facilities development or modernization, not just use the space well, but actually intentionally plan a space with lighting and the right kind of materials to hang things. You'll see we have stuff pasted to whiteboards and hung on walls that maybe aren't necessarily designed for that kind of thing. And I would invite us to consider in any facilities development that we actually plan on both of our campuses spaces that are set up as galleries. I would love to see, I met with her yesterday, and she shared with me that there have been some efforts facilitated by the Center for Excellence where artwork or gallery space in certain galleries in Sausalito have been donated in kind to support fundraising. And I would just really, our students are creating some incredible visual artwork that I think is actually worthy of not only being exhibited, but perhaps even put up for sale at spaces like the Sausalito Arts Festival, Art and Wine Festival, or other gallery spaces throughout Marin. So I think that might be an interesting area to look at, especially as we're continue to create an even more robust arts integration program. I would, yes.
I see that you say focus. And of course, I don't see anything for social sciences or literature, which is where you greatly get at critical thinking, and it's where you greatly get at societal problems. And I hope there's going to be a good spot for all of that.
I think there will be. One of the greatest recommendations that I saw from the curriculum committee was an ethnic studies, social justice, and environmental justice recommendation and focus. All things that I am not only morally and philosophically aligned with, but happen to have some resources and connections with many people that I'm very close to. Authored the ethnic studies curriculum that was board adopted in Oakland, and I think that would be a wise focus for our school. I know that our current English and social studies teacher here at Bayside and Arcade is doing a lot of social justice focused teaching and learning and ethnic studies curriculum. And one of the things I want to say too about these survey responses is that people didn't have a chance to respond. We will be putting out more surveys, and our commitment is to now have some individual surveys. One that is focused on students, one that is focused on parents, one that is focused on staff, and one that is focused on community members disaggregated. And as we craft those survey items, I think these are things that we're going to ask. There is the same survey company that put this together actually has an equity survey, and we fully intend to, an equity survey, and we fully intend to give that here, and I believe that we have cooperation from Willow Creek leadership to get it there. And some of the items on that survey ask things directly like what you're asking. How often are you explicitly taught critical thinking skills? How often do you have conversations about race in your schools? How often do you have conversations about class in your schools? How often are these things explicitly taught? And I hope that those kinds of survey responses can help us craft a recommendation. Thank you for calling that out.
One other thing is I wanted to say I think the Spanish program from all the way through grades is really a great idea. I was a Spanish teacher at middle school.
Wow.
And also in English language development with kids coming in all over the world. There was classes themselves showing how children from everywhere. We had people from high technology families coming in to work from Marin County, and kids were working on the estates of people there, and great friendships, beautiful things like that. Also, the fact that learning a second language or more is beneficial to your own vocabulary, to your own first language, to understanding other cultures, cultures and languages, and it is so beneficial to be bilingual and not have the kids that do speak, say, Spanish or another language to stop speaking at home because of the mistake I did that you have to learn English in order to first they're all good. It's completely wrong. So I love that idea. I'm supportive of that.
Thank you for naming that. This is literally the only developed country that does not emphasize multilingualism. Really, the entirety of the rest of the world. I spent some time in Europe growing up as a little boy, but even Canada, Japan, and the other developed countries, Australia, most people do not consider monolingual people to be well educated. And so we're sort of this last bastion of monolingualism.
You know the joke about what do you call a person who speaks 3 languages?
What's that?
Bilingual. What do you call somebody who speaks 2 languages? Bilingual. What do you call somebody who speaks 1 language? American.
I hadn't heard that. That's a good one.
I want to add a little caveat on the end of that. I started out working a lot with special ed children, and actually sign language is also considered a language. And they could use it as their language credit, right? So I thought that was wonderful because really, truly, a lot of people learn in so many different ways. I was taught this actually by Ariana Huffington that our public schools in America were based on a Prussian system of trying to make their youth be lockstep with the government. We don't have to follow that anymore, and we can definitely move into a learning-based living laboratory. And one thing, obviously with all of that is just sort of nature, keeping ourselves grounded in our health, conscious obviously with the very good foresight.
Yeah, thank you for naming that. Actually, that's one of the reasons, other than the fact that I grew up around here and a lot of people I know and love have kids in our schools, that I was so excited by this opportunity. We have an opportunity to be a leader in educational innovation in this country. Because we're so small, and because of the amount of resources that we have. I have spent an entire career in places where per pupil spending was less than $5,000 a student. And we were able to transform education at that level. We have double and triple that amount available to our students here. And so I think that we can take a cue from some of the international systems that have made some incredible academic growth over the last decade. If you look at Thailand or Singapore or Japan or Denmark or Finland, Sweden, Norway, France, they all actually spend a very focused amount of time on academics, somewhere between 5 and 5.5 hours a day, and the rest of their time is spent on enrichment. And what their academic teachers get to do, which teachers in America do not get to do, is collaborate and plan and design instruction together. And I think that we really have an amazing opportunity to design a system like that here. That would allow up to 5 hours a week of teacher collaboration time here for our staff, and allow us to offer some of the most amazing enrichment programming anywhere in the country. And I will hang my hat on the educational outcomes that we would be able to attain probably in a relatively short time, 3 to 5 years, with that kind of a model. So I want to let you all talk a little bit, so let me get through this last little piece, and then that's what we'll spend the rest of our time doing. This is our scope and sequence timeline.
As you can see, we're in the second bar here. We hope that work groups happen basically for the next 6 weeks. We'll get an update at the November board meeting. We will invite all of you to participate in affinity groups as well. We'll put out a new student, staff, and parent survey there that second week in November. We'll have our third town hall meeting like this that week before Thanksgiving. And we'll invite all of our work groups to get a draft report together from the work that they've been doing, the meetings they've been having. That first week of December, we will spend in synthesizing information, survey results, town hall feedback, the work group draft reports. We will have a board workshop with both boards that second week in December, and continue with the synthesis and community feedback. The week before we break for Christmas, we will have a third set of town halls where we present the draft final report that will go before the boards in January and get another round of community feedback. We really want to member check it with you all. Come back a couple times and say, hey, this is what we think we're hearing. Are we getting it right? Is this what you all are saying? Are we missing something? And then that will feed into a final report to both school boards 2nd of January. It will feed into the work of the desegregation advisory group. Desegregation advisory group needs to put forward a draft comprehensive education plan no later than February the 6th, which will go before the board the second week of February. And that will feed into the final adoption of our 3-year LCAP for our district in May the 14th, 2020, which will really be our plan, education and funding plan for the next 3 years, which we hope covers the scope of the timeline around unification and manifest, although we're open to input and it changing, hopefully a K-8 dual language STAR magnet school helps us flush out our common goals, values, and beliefs, and a really tight consensus building process that meets the needs of the majority of our entire community. So we had folks do a dream school activity, but most of you have already done it. So what I'd like to do is move us into the work group time that we have allocated. So there's been a considerable amount of work done, but for those of you that this is your first meeting, we just want to frame the work group time and the work groups and work group topics. We really want to invite you to enter them into it with a spirit of consensus building, of collaboration and community engagement, to lean into the idea of engaging with civil discourse and equity of voice. And if you want to continue on as part of the work group, we will be asking you to attend one of the 3-hour Courageous Conversation capacity building seminars coming up that second week in November. I will also have a menu of capacity building workshops that are voluntary for the community to choose from, but that one we are requiring folks to attend. We are going to ask you to create a team charter document, set some goals, make some recommendations, create a work group final report. And today, we're going to ask you just to choose a facilitator, a note taker, a timekeeper, and a reporter, and look at the calendar dates that the other work groups have done, and just report out whatever new work comes from the folks that are gathered here today. These are the work groups that we have. Facilities work group, curriculum work group, transportation, process. A lot of folks have questions about process. We actually want a work group giving us feedback on this process. How are we doing? Is there something we're missing? Should we add something? Should we take something away? Staffing work group, culture and climate work group, philanthropy and fundraising work group, fiscal integrity and transparency work group, student work group, and a couple things that have been offered since the last meeting that I will call out. I need to update this slide. Is a healing work group. This has been a very painful and divisive topic in our community. We need to actually purposefully attend to some healing so that we all have a chance to move forward together. And then we also would ask you to, if you're interested in being part of an affinity group to join one of these affinity groups. African American affinity group, English language learner, Latino affinity group, white affinity group, LGBTQ plus affinity group, Asian Pacific Islander affinity group, and two that were also offered to me after the last two unification meetings as affinity groups were a working class affinity group and a mixed race affinity group, so that there's an affinity group for everybody. And so if you're interested in that, please email unification@smcsd.org, and we'll start convening those affinity groups together based on people's responses. We would like to invite all of you to break into some work groups at this time. Did I say anything?
Well, someone mentioned affinity group for Yemeni.
Oh, Arabic speaking, yeah. Yemeni. Thank you for adding that. So we do have some posters and some markers here. If you would gravitate towards one group and not the other, we would invite you to do so. Some of the folks that have been at several meetings are already in work groups, and so I would invite you all to either continue on at those work groups and update folks. I'm going to take the facilities work group over here for
Anyone for transportation?
And I'm going to bring all of the posters that the work groups have already developed down from upstairs so you can see where the conversation has already been and see what you may add. It seems to be the process.
But I'm just...
Anyway, really good to be part of this.
That's great, yeah.
I texted her. She said, I just come in with my band.
Because I think parents of young Oh, wow, really? Yeah. So having some of those parents, there was a mom who played the baby when they were Oh, okay. And it wasn't getting today.
we're here trying to start the foundation, we're here to try to raise funds for the arts. Now, it's struggling, but
So it's not just, you know, or you said what you did in your class, and you said what you did in your class, you collaborate. Absolutely essential.
Another thing that if they're not like it's a lack of communication.
I can get it.
Yeah, but if they fix communication all over the board, then now give us the ability to actually do this job and actually talk to them successfully without having this person involved, that person involved. You know what I'm saying? Because too many people are being involved. You can really easy to talk to them. In this process, we're in a weird state. So it's a lot of discomfort, there's a lot of awkward tension, and letting me know how to do it.
Say no different than I was a kid here in the 80s. I can tell you straight up.
And where they volunteer girls. I come back from this is old, like I just need a little bit of content, like I get a roll on the mountain and I'll put a chart on it, it money. It's like, nobody else is here on the computer. I'll do that and then bring it back. We did one Wednesday, just in my group, but I was like, why don't we call it something like Pluto? I just listened not long ago to a podcast called Miss Buchanan's Period. It's just, you know, Malcolm Gladwell, but typically, I don't know much about him, so, you know, this was so, this blew my mind completely. Talking about being around and organized, and saying that the Supreme Court made the mistake of assuming that the African American children didn't interfere in their education. When in fact, many of the funds being around anyways, I was thinking maybe my first the brightest and the best
But also, we don't have
Kids should know that not the reason why they're today of how and how, you know, there was a real life. That's like my family. It was my parents, Samuel's parents, all the old families, all the pioneer families. They fought to be a big pioneer community 5 years ago. And they thought the people who came here, the Palestinians, would go back to where they came from, and they didn't. And it was very hard because they did have facility-wise covenant. People in Washington could not build houses.
Foreign states are also which is probably more Jewish than Jewish. Huh? And so that environmental study opportunities, state of the art, physical, PE facilities. So you're adding stuff.
These are kinds of things.
Teach you about the history of
eventually they're gonna merge two schools. They're gonna also have to make.
He was there at 6 a.m. We can take
A
it
lot
to
of things
6
are
a.m.
gonna have to be brought up to code.
As soon as we got everybody to breakfast, he come all right. He said, listen, RC, this is what happened in the after-school program. These are up during the day. Got it, no problem. So all kids were buttoned up. We can't really do anything until we determine whether it's one school or two schools. Is that the last school? After school,
one school and let the kids oscillate. And not this school at community center, which, no.
It would seem like kids would
Community, well.
even if that was, why would you waste this wonderful facility?
Exactly. And why would you, this has a science lab and all this, why would you not use this? Just use those little tables at Willow Creek.
So it's a very complicated history that we tend not to know, and I think it's extraordinarily valuable. Yeah. That's one reason that I said earlier, if you do everything on speed, I want enough about the literature and the social sciences to bring all that together.
We can do half, so we can do facility, we're trying to wait on with the process. So we can do process, we can switch over to process and then separate them. Do you guys want to do a little more facility, one more for facility and then process? Any more? Okay, let's move on to process.
I just want to tell you that. Thank you very much. But then give me your email and send my
You know how you had all of this on there, frameworks and so on.
right.
Is that right? Okay. And they said, my project, they said, well, we followed
Well, most incorporate state standards.
Yeah.
Put
curriculum frameworks and content standards. Email. It looks like it's a mistake, but it's. What is the date? I don't care. What is the date? Today? Yeah. Facility. Good idea.
dates were on that. And what kind of moving here?
So we became arts integrated social justice. Social justice through the arts.
And you're right. That's right. Okay. Janice says J-A-N.
Meeting dates listed in this spreadsheet, but I don't see any of them there, any notes. Orpheum is the projection of the short-term supply. Oh, okay. That's what the kids are like, oh, we did that in July. Yes, I am. You can keep it. You gotta be a good fun. So these things are essentially
That's why I said learning. From this one, they say systems thinking literacy. Being learning about systems, ecological systems, whether it's systems of government, places, all kinds of things.
Individual disciplines that connect with connected. So, for example, I can give a quick Scott and Dad was trying to get them to think about and he showed up and he had an awesome dad and he went over and picked up 3 paper clips and he walked into the schools and handed out a paper clip to the first student. He went to the next child, hit the ball and handed her and she said, thank you. He went to the next child and she said, and then he just went across and he said, next day. And it really was a social experience. That you came out with, what their response was. So you said, what was your response? What was that response? We got to that discussion. What his question was how they responded to people something more and then they told him how he responded, and one girl said, no, I did say thank you. So there was 2 out of 3 and 11 students. And then he went, well, what did I learn for anything? So how did I learn more? How did I learn more? So how did he came up to ask? You can ask a question. Why did you respond to me? Because if you don't know that, why you've got his responses here and everything up here. And
doing the bit of giving it as an experiment, and how you would do that, how you would set it up, and go and get answers and be able to some kids are just polite because they want you to go away. Talking that would make you go away, cut it off, or whatever it could be, or mom would say, no matter what, so I think those are discipline
Because I'm here Cal State East Bay just agreed to re-enter back in a relationship with us. Yeah.
I'm saying that.
And Cal State is 50% is bilingual teachers, and that's just from relationships that I when they heard
yes, but the other thing we were talking about is across the curriculum. And maybe we should
Good sales, man. Take the lead out.
Yeah, I feel like I see a lot.
You know what's watching
so many kids. Okay, just put one just like you store the arts and my grandson.
It almost all involves around that. Even,
I know I have one grandson. He didn't have physical activity. Oh, that's really good at learning it. Did you? Yeah. That's right. And did you get one of these about the No, that's why I bought it. There's something there's a need for that.
it's great to hear your perspective.
No, it's just, okay, so here's what this will come up and this is the least developed. Think about this is a few.
The artist who helped do the skateboard. Okay. So he's a fine artist. He studies at Pasadena. And he's been teaching in Salt Lake City School District over the years. And he did create a skateboard where you can try tennis and not use the skate park. And we have the students that are designed in a mural that's going to be in the tunnel, just like you're saying. And we start the work on this side. Yep, I'm on stage. Locates their no longer. I can't do that. It's important to have artists come in because then it's easier to raise money.
Are they trying to make mansions up
And
there?
this is the stellar.
I'm gonna give everyone a 5-minute time check and ask you to report out.
Young people and then planning mansions and people in all communities. First of all, he has teaches the kids to make the statements.
Why not?
He's done parks in LA,
And by the way,
East Bay, South Bay, and as well as Nevada. This is new work. That's very different than Shamesville.
they're on Chinchilla and Wow, I think they're city because it's a flat space.
You're all right. That's in West Oakland.
Oh, no, I'm contact
There's lots of this really friendly little bit pop parties. So he's doing art all over the country.
Yeah, this is not a good place.
But yeah, he's been teaching out here in the district for a long time.
Still big fan of that.
Well, thing part 2.
And the planning department is doing this scoping session.
Anyway, that was the thought.
I just talked to everyone. You know what? Well, no, it's true.
Is it just?
That's where I got on the day. Right.
when I asked the young kids, they can easily find out. I said, where did you go? I was in the hospital.
So if we could give everybody our attention over here at facilities, we want to hear a little bit about what each work group did.
So we determined a number of issues. Y'all be quiet. Order. A detail about existing facilities at each school is very much needed. We need to inventory the land and the school, what's available. Open, healthy line of communication between the parties at the school, particularly those on this committee. Use the existing middle school as a middle school. Determine what other portion for this facility can be used for K, and I believe we came to some sense that this school could be the middle school and a TKK facility. Concern in regard to which buildings are safe to use. It's also a suggestion that we have K4 at Willow Creek, BMLK 5-8. Performance art studios, environmental PE facilities, and facilities should be developed. And consider unification of staff meetings. If indeed the schools are unified, how will you process the staff meetings in those in the two facilities, or between the two facilities? What do we want? How to get there? Structure, goals, agreements, plus options for both. Do we have the capacity for students at each school? If we're talking about middle school here and lower grades at both or at one campus, what are the capacity needs? And that's something that we'd like to get as a committee, inventory regarding the students and their grade levels, so that we know what kind of spacing is needed. Set schedules to make sure programs are inclusive. Bus system must be in place. Remodel of the library layout. And importantly, we need to really deal with the pushback that's already in existence and have courageous conversations may well do that. We got a lot of work to do. I'll just sum it up that way.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Can you pass the mic over to the curriculum group?
Oh, I can hold it. I'll hold it. I will hold it for you. You read it. You need the mic. But use the mic. Okay. Because you speak fast.
Yep, okay. We wanted teaching across the curriculum. We wanted to restore the arts and PE, visual media arts, dance, theater, music, everything across the curriculum. Study each discipline as a subject area, but also cross-curriculum integration. And for that, we must have time for grade level meetings for collaboration. That is absolutely critical, or this cannot be done. Also, the teachers learn a lot about other disciplines that way too, and what's going on for the kids. Best practices are vital to bring skills and knowledge effectively to students, and that means ongoing teacher development. Then we talked about STEAM. In addition to STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, when you put an A in there, it's STEAM, and that includes arts. Individual disciplines with connected learning. Some of this is a little repetitious. In science, you want hands-on science, tech, middle and elementary schools. Students need to learn about their community, both Marin City and Sausalito. teaching about history from Miwok, influx of Europeans, the Californios, and then going on into World War II, the history of covenants, redlining, and also military impact. Students need to be aware of all those things. And they have a good walkabout. The community at Willow Creek, it needs to be expanded to be here and include all of those things, not just Sausalito. And we must incorporate and put it out there in writing that the frameworks and content standards are there for parents to see and to know that we are meeting those. That's our report.
Awesome. Thank you, curriculum group. If you could pass the mic over here. What group is that? Transportation. All right.
Well, hi, I'm Kirsten Thomas. I think I missed the introductions. And I was here on the first night along with Dr. T, and we were at this table again, and we kind of said, well, we got this handled because all our ideas are already on the paper. I think I don't need to belabor that necessarily here today, but I will get in touch with the group that we already have and make sure that we know where we're meeting on October 29th, which was the first meeting that we have. We have several others outlined. I think for myself, I don't know if there are any other timelines that we could know about that would help us with this group. That was one of the things I was thinking, like I have more questions than answers. I could see us coming up with a list of things we need to know before having a solid transportation plan. So maybe that's something to consider, how we can get more info.
Yeah, please email any questions that you have to the unification@smcsd.org email, and then I can respond that way.
Okay. I think it's fair to say that for the transportation group, we're assuming that a unified school would make use of both campuses, and we talked about, getting kids from one side to the other, and various ways we could do that between walking programs, biking programs, bus programs. And there were a lot of good ideas that had been mentioned and things for us to follow up on. So we have a few things to do on Tuesday.
Thank you so much. And
sorry for the interruption. Quick announcement. Outside, we're setting up an emergency shelter charging station. There are 4 cars that we can have moved, possibly. One's a burgundy Honda Accord, and there's 3 other cars. If we can move them just across the street, it'd be great. They need 100 feet of space to set this so. No, if you're parked on this side of the road, on this side of the street, please move it to the opposite side. Yeah, the parking lot towards the school. Park it on the other side by the gym, if you can. But surely you're okay. Your car is fine. Yeah. The cars that are parked in the actual spaces up there. Okay, if you're right in front, you're okay. Just the marked parking spaces, yeah.
On this side of the street?
Yes.
Okay, I'm okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
The microphone's right there.
Okay. I was by myself on the fundraising committee, but I didn't feel by myself, thankfully, because last week Itoko helped me rename the one foundation that we're going to create so that we have a single circle under which, and we brainstormed that maybe it's called UNO, and it could be standing for Unity, Nosotros, Own, which means, or ourselves,
This translation is unity we own, unity we ourselves, so lots of opportunities for you all to decide what that might be. And I've just been trying to listen. The part I didn't mention in my intro is I've been fundraising for 35 years, and I'm just always trying to find new ways to name how to do that work, because I still love it. In this circle and pencil, I was just trying to listen to what y'all were saying, and the first thing that comes to me always is to create something visual and emotional to engage folks to give money. And I really love this idea that's not new, but to create a massive piece of art that is actually created by the student body. And there are so many talented artists. I know that Keith Williams has been teaching art in the community, and he's a graduate from Pasadena School of Arts, and he has his work all over the world, and he builds skate parks on the side to get kids interested in doing stuff that's really productive. So what if we had a tunnel welcoming math art mat? What I mean by a welcoming mat that's art, and that the students learn to do that through math, and that's tied to a tech media arts program, and that's all under project-based learning as a concept to pitch. So we are going to pitch STEAM to work, because we're preparing our students using project-based learning, ensuring that we fulfill the curricular needs that they need to get apprenticeships and internships. So whether they want to go to college or not, they're prepared to do either, and that they're already practicing in internships and apprenticeships before they leave 8th grade. So this isn't really well organized, but I'm just trying to give some concepts for us to communicate how we can raise money successfully about why this is a visionary unification plan. And the sooner we find the words that allow us to visually and emotionally communicate that, the sooner we'll succeed on every level. We only met on Wednesday, and I'm like professionally in love with everything that you're saying, and I'm super honored to just keep figuring this out. So each of these quadrants connects to a piece of the pie on the other side. So this says nature, and this says mental and physical wellness. There are lots of ways to do both. I understand there's a $3 million proposal to finish the Willow Creek renewal, which is bringing a creek that used to run from Wolfback Ridge down to the bay. I understand it's halfway finished. $3 million for a creek sounds like a lot of money when our kids have no art programs. But if we wrap it into a mental wellness where nature is dependent upon the health and well-being of our young people, then it's $3 million that helps our kids first and does it in a multitude of ways. And this says Indigenous learning. So I was at something called SOCAP. I'm sorry, I'm going long, but I really want this to happen quickly. But I was with a circle of Indigenous people at something called SOCAP, which is a meeting where people for 10 years have been social capital, i.e. dollars, to different people, and it's mostly been white people and mostly men. But finally there's an Indigenous leader who welcomes SOCAP, and I sat with a group of Indigenous individuals from Alaska to Baja, and I think that there's a way for us to name what Indigenous learning looks like that's really unique to Marin City and Sausalito, because we're a really small but unusual group. So I'll just thank you guys for all leading this, and I would love to contribute however I can.
Thank you.
Are you working for Willow Creek as a fundraiser?
I just was hired for 3 months to, the way it happened was I said, there's no way you're going to keep this school open if you don't retell your story. That's what I said. I wasn't looking for a job. I wanted just total transparency. And then after I spoke for a little while, because I have a 35-year background in education, we're just learning each other, and so I helped Courageous Conversations with their foundation and went through their training early on as well. But we had no idea until today. When I shared two things. One is get an outside evaluator to put together your numbers, and if there's a unification plan, figure out what that is too, so you're not doing this separately from it. And luckily there is somebody on the board who has a financial background and can get that outside documentation from a professional institution that's, I don't know, I want to also commend you for using technology in the Q&A so that people are not critiquing other people's questions with the people in mind, they're critiquing the questions with the questions in mind. And so the more we can equalize the way that we are listening to each other, the faster we're going to get this going. But yeah, they're paying me for 3 months, and what I said was, you need an outside financial opinion, and you need a news story and video. And so I'm helping them do that. And they will actually have to raise their own money because, well, or now that I'm learning more, or we need one foundation to do it all together. And obviously it's not quite as simple as that. I was also on the founding board of Envision Schools, where we ultimately received $9 million to do 5 schools here and then a model for schools in other states around the US. But our very first school in Novato, California was shut down by the neighboring public school for the wrong reasons. And so I'm also here to make sure, you know, that people understand how easily the wrong thing can happen, wrong intentions because of money. And after 35 years of raising money, not because I intended to be a doctor. I became a nonprofit founder, and I want us all to be unified around understanding that telling really truthful and collaborative stories will allow us all to arrive at a place that we'll all be proud of and happy with. So I'm a hopeaholic. I don't plan to recover. And yeah, if people are going to pay me to help them raise money, I can do that. That's how I support myself. But mostly I've just been raising money for 35 years because I thought that there were important things to be done. I have 11 projects right now. 5 of them I volunteer for. No, 6. Sorry, 6 I volunteer for and 5 I charge for. I think we have to build trust. It takes time. You know, I empathize with how much time you've been spending with all of us. So thanks for listening so hard and repeating yourself so beautifully every time.
Well, I just have a question for you too. Like, what kind of story? What do you mean by?
Oh, well, I mean, you know, I've been living here longer than most of the people teaching at that school. And Willow Creek. Yeah. This school too. I mean, I have a few, so Felicia and Shirley and some of us know each other from, you know, when Betty Times was, you know, here. Anyway, so telling a new story is making sure that everyone understands what's really happening at Willow Creek, everybody. And I think Willow Creek needs to understand what's happening here. So if we have to tell 2 stories in the next 2 years until the Unity Plan is in place, we'll do that. If we could tell 1 story now, that'd be better, but I don't know that that's possible. That's my observation. Any thoughts?
Yeah. I think there's been a major history of different stories. And there's truth, and there's stories, and there's interpretations of truth and stories. And I guess you know, to create a video to tell a story that's about one side's perspective feels to me, I mean, just you handed me the mic, you know.
That we met on Wednesday, the first thing we said is we need to create a video. And I said, oh yeah, we need to talk because, you know, that's what I said to Willow Creek, not even knowing what was happening here in terms of being up to speed with it. I know the history of the community because I've lived here for 30 years and I'm a graduate from Terra Lunda High, go TL. And so I would love there just to be one video. And maybe we can do that before, but I also understand that there might have to be 2 phases simply because of the money issue. And I mean, I'm encouraging the outside evaluator to finish this so we can see and push back or not. I mean, I feel like I know enough people on all sides of the story right now where we can figure out a story that's going to work for all. I do believe that. It's just a matter of timing. And maybe you can chime in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we have been having this conversation, and we're committed to trying to tell a unifying story, and that's the story that we need to tell. And doing so through student voice and video, I think, is a really good mechanism, right? There's a lot of people in our community that don't believe that we can, and I think that is actually the most important story that we need to refute, is that we can. We can come together, we can be unified, and we can deliver a school that works for all of our students and families on both sides of this freeway. And I hope that's the story that we're focused on telling, and we're focused on creating a pathway of how to come together and do that. And so that's, I think, not to speak for Alana, but that's what I'm focused on, and I think that's what the Unification Task Force has been talking about actually for several weeks, is how do we tell a unifying story? And sometimes a story starts in two different places to get to a common end, right? And you know, I have said a lot. We have to confront and understand what happened in our community so that we can process and transcend what happened. And I think a part of this that can be through this story, a part of it might be offline, so that we can agree on what the unifying story is. I really appreciate, Chris, what you're saying, and there has been multiple narratives put out, right? Alternative facts, if you will, to use our president's term. And I think that's part, when I say we have to confront what happened, that's part of what I mean, is we have to really confront, like, these things happen. And I really appreciate, you know, what you brought, your energy, Ms. Moody, what you said. You know, even though your grandkids go to Willow Creek, I really appreciate your truth and your side of the story. And I think, if you don't mind sharing part of the conversation that you and I had offline when she was the first person that was here, and what she shared with me, which I detect a lot when I talk to folks at Willow Creek, is a lot of parents at Willow Creek really didn't know what was going on behind the scenes around how funds were allocated and how MOUs were created. And I think for the folks that I've seen showing up in the unification space, that is a narrative that I've heard commonly. They're very surprised at what they're learning from the AG judgment and from ongoing conversations, and feel morally and ethically obligated to do something about it, which is why they're here in a unification process trying to figure out what we can do. And I think that's part of what Chris, you're referencing, right? And I actually think, to me, that's the unification energy for us to build on, is, you know, we're not going to get 100% of the people. Can we get 60? Can we get 80? Can we at least get 52%, right? And I think that's where we have to go.
Yeah, and maybe just to, I'm pretty sure we're all on the same page, same paragraph, but a moonshot is a vision that we can all get excited about. Building the friggin' spaceship is really hard work, and so the new story is the moonshot. Like, it means we're gonna go to the moon. So Kennedy said, we're gonna go to the moon. And then people had something to focus on besides an enemy. And that's called inspiration. Shirley and I were talking about awe, A-W-E, earlier. And so, you know, you're talking about the details, and a video is just a vision. And the vision has to carry us along so that we can sit in the unification meetings and knock out the spaceship that's going to get us there. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That was where I was heading.
Yeah,
I just
so
wanted to
that's the
say I
idea.
didn't finish saying, I think one video would really, I feel strongly, would serve what we all want to do to make the spaceship or make the most amazing school. So, yeah.
I wasn't able to make it to the Tuesday night meeting because I had another meeting to be at, but my son and daughter-in-law and their two little girls, 2 and 5, showed up. And they have been looking at all the private schools around here, trying to figure out where they're going to get their children to go, because they don't figure either school does science or math very well at all. I mean, they're appalled. My son is an MD, my daughter's a veterinarian, so I'm a biologist and taught school for years. So, and I'm trying to make it fun, no matter whether I taught in junior high, high school, or community college. I mean, my students had fun. And I taught history across the board. I taught all kinds of things, contemporary stuff going around. In fact, I even watched General Hospital so that I could converse with my kids about what was so terribly wrong in terms of the so this is a whole thing on curriculum, because they had weird things, and we got into arguments about sample size. And then they were stunned to find out that the nurses program, the nurses study, which was the biggest now, was being used, and the numbers that were being involved in that study. So those are things that I think are really critical, and I bring this up because everything was about arts on Tuesday. Everything was about arts. It was left getting this in, getting that in, doing the other thing, and science was completely ignored, and math was pretty much ignored as well. And that disturbed them. Now, both my daughter-in-law, my son, myself, my children, all graduated from public schools. They would like to graduate their kids from public schools. They really want to. But believe me, they tell you they're watching very carefully. They're participating, and don't lose them, because my granddaughters got 2 really brilliant parents, and they'll go anywhere to get those kids to have an opportunity. And what the biggest comment my daughter-in-law said, and she's actually more into humanities, and has a MFA, anyway, does a lot of work in nonprofits and does the bookkeeping and all that kind of stuff. So I'm skipping the word, but sorry. Anyway, she just really wants all students to learn math and science, because climate change is real. It is absolutely real. Picking the Green Ninja program and dealing with that whole science problem with that climate change is huge. We need scientists, we need mathematicians, we need engineers, we need people with technology to solve the problems, because arts aren't going to do it. They may help us feel better and learn more. And by the way, I also had my students used art, and some of my students who were graphic artists had to put in 10 words and a drawing in their graphic art drawing or whatever else they were drawing, and turn that into me, so I knew that I could see that they had taken notes. And their grades went from C, D to A in most cases.
Thank you. I think I saw one more hand.
I would like to, in addition to what Mickey has been saying, put the arts back in because we need that. Anyway, what my comment was, if we're going to try to tell a story in a video, that is really going to be hard. This is complex. It's extremely complex. And I think we better be, maybe we are in the information gathering stage at this point before we go to a video. We're investigating. And when we get all the pieces together, then we have something that the community can buy into. We can then put together a video that perhaps captures a small part. That's all it's going to be able to do, unless it's an extremely long video. So I would like to be sure we've got a lot of community buy-in. I understand that this is for buy-in, but we better be sure if we're putting out one story, it's got a lot of pieces to it.
Amen. Thank you for that. And I'll let that be the final word, because we're we're at time. I want to appreciate everybody's energy and attention and spirit, and want to make sure that you all just save the date that week before Thanksgiving. In November, we will have another round of town halls, both desegregation and unification, and I hope that you all can make it and that you are plugged into various different work groups. And again, if you have any questions or other amazing ideas or brainstorms, please email us, unification@smcsd, Sausalito Marin City School District.org. And thank you all so much for coming today.
I would really, as a Unification Task Force member, I would really encourage all of you to send to the email address any information that you really need, like classroom capacity, current enrollment, curricular, rules, whatever the regulations that we have to keep in mind. Because for you to do your work, I want you to have as much of that as you can possibly, as we can provide you.
Oh, and please take a sandwich.
And please tell everyone not to miss, if everyone in this room is not at the Courageous Conversation session, either Wednesday or Saturday, you are really missing one of the most important things for this unification process. The Courageous Conversation workshop that's being offered, do not miss it. Do not miss it.
It's Courageous Conversations about race and equity.
And this is scoping session. Comments of room, but this is at the development on top of it. No, but